Welcome to the Newstrength Way, a podcast made for empowering people to become their strongest selves through movement, education, and connection.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 5 of the Newstrength Way. Today we're talking our favorite strength methods to build size, strength, and power. So, Nath, you want to take us through one of our first method for today?
First of all, we're going to be talking about max efforts with back offsets.
Yeah, cool. And what we're going to be covering with these is what they are, how you can use them, who should and shouldn't use them, or maybe where you should and shouldn't use them. It might be a little bit more appropriate at times. So, Nath, let's run us through like the max effort with back offs.
So you can think of it as like an auto-regulated system, I guess.
What's that mean for anyone that doesn't know?
Auto-regulated means it's not a set percentage, so it's regulated by how you're feeling on the day. Depending on the program, it could be regulated by an RPE scale, which is a rate of perceived exertion. But it depends on what you're doing. But to put it in a simple way, you work up to a maximal effort for the day, and it could be a single, it could be reps, it depends on the program. Most of the time, this is followed by back offsets. This can be at the same weight for less reps, or a drop in percentage of whatever maximal weight was hit to accrue volume.
Yeah, so let's talk about like some of the perks of like using this method.
It's a really good way to
Get strong real quick.
Yeah, it's a really good way to express strength, I feel.
Yeah.
I do think you can build strength this way, but I feel as though it does
optimizing what's there a little bit more.
It's kind of like it's an adaptation, and you will get stronger, but I don't think it's necessarily a building strength phase. It's definitely an expressing strength phase.
Yeah.
So
sure.
you express strength through that, and you fine tune motor patterns or recruitment and neural qualities.
Yeah. And so, who would this be a good option for? Like, what have they done in the last couple of weeks? Like, or the last couple of training phases? Like, where would you implement this?
You'd come off something that was sub-maximal. Probably something that was well balanced, like had a fair bit of structural integrity, probably working around 60 to 80% rep ranges, and the total volume was quite low.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean it was easy by any means, it's just like it's not above or near their maximal recoverable volume. So they're coming into it somewhat fresh. They must have pretty good motor skills. Like, you're not going to put someone into a max effort block where they move like crap, because it only is going to feed the problem, not fix it. If someone's movement patterns are pretty good, they're not coming off something too strenuous, it'd be really good. And psychologically too, it can be really good if you're feeling flat through your training, or you don't have that push, because when you jump under a max effort set, you have no choice but to do it, or it's going to buckle you.
Yeah,
so
and
it works
one of those
well
things that you just shoot small little jumps as well. So if you've done it before, you know like what your best set of 5 is on the back squat. So then you're like, oh well, I just need to go 2.5 or 5 kilos heavier than that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can make 10 kilo jumps and get a little bit more pumped up and excited with it. But
you think you can and you don't, like I did the other day.
Sometimes you think that you've gone better than what you have. But it's super effective way. You just have to be aware that it's really damn hard.
Yeah, it's really hard, and it can cause niggles / injuries. And there's just it just depends on the person. Like, I've seen people do this really well and stay on it and do it really well for a long period of time. And I know people that do it for a little bit and get good results, and then they just die in the arse.
And I know for me, like, I tend to find this works really well balancing it with like maybe one day of max efforts with another day that's like a volume based speed day, like kind of like the traditional like West Side conjugate method. Yeah. Whereas like a heavy day and then a lighter day for more for reps, where you're just focusing on technique a little bit more. Like, that works really well for me to keep it in check, to make sure that I stay not beaten to shit, really.
Yeah. And I think just talking about fatigue there, I think another thing maximal effort training allows you to do, I think as not really athletes, or more people that have a job and have other responsibilities that really enjoy training, and it allows you to go really well when you're feeling good. So, like, I know some days when I've been following percentage programs, I probably could have hit a PR but didn't because I followed the program.
Yeah.
And not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but it allows you to meet where you're at. And I know training can dictate that, like where your fatigue levels will be, but I think for everyday people it's external influences too.
Yeah.
So when you feel like shit's okay, you just don't hit a PR that day. When you feel good, you take full advantage and you go for it.
And I think it's a perfect cycle for around 8 to 12 weeks. Like, it's something that if you progress your way from like 10 rep max all the way down to singles, it's really, really awesome for like that short, focused and intense, high intention period of time. We spoke about this in our last episode just before, about like these really, really short bout of intensities, and then moving back to something that's a little bit more recoverable and sustainable in between.
Definitely.
But that's our max effort work. The next one that we're going to be talking about is one of my favorites and your least favorites. It's the triphasic method, popularized by Cal Dietz. I think I've made Nath cry a few times when we've done these blocks together.
Hate it. Hate it so much.
So what that one looks like is like a few weeks of eccentric focused training. So you might be looking at like a 6-second eccentric for 5 to 6 reps in a set. Then from there you might go 3 weeks of an isometric focused block, so anywhere between like 3 to 5 seconds, 3 to 5 reps there.
And for anyone that doesn't know what eccentrics and isometrics are, Jake?
So eccentric is your lowering phase in the lift. So if you were taking a squat, you just walk the bar out. It's you going down to the bottom of the squat. The isometric phase would then be you pausing in the bottom of the squat, or potentially at a weak point that's other than the bottom position. And then your concentric would be then coming back up after that.
Yeah. Something that always helped me, like, keep that in my brain is eccentrics controlling force and concentrics producing it.
Yeah.
That allows me to, like, figure it, like, differentiate between the two. Get going.
Cool. And then your last way through the triphasic method is then going into something that we're going to cover a little bit later, as well as like a dynamic style, focusing on the concentric and really focus on accelerating the weight as fast as possible in that there. So it's really, really effective because for a few things that helps you dial in your technique really well.
Yeah.
If you can't be out of position when you're trying to slow the weight down for 5 seconds. Makes you super sore, which sucks, and it hurts a lot while you do it. But it's really, really effective for that. You get super strong in the weakest points of the lift when you're doing that isometric phase. And then you also get some funky tendon adaptations that help you accelerate and produce more or reproduce more force out of that eccentric in the stretch shortening cycle. That means if you're bouncing out of the bottom of the squat, you can generally tend to bounce out more effectively. If your position's really good then as well, then you're going to bounce out higher. You're going to have to produce less force to finish the squat, which means you can put more weight on the bar. Yeah. So that's a really good one. We use a lot with our athletes because it means that we don't have to load them up with as much weight. And that's one of the reasons why I really like it. And particularly that stretch shortening cycle is super important to be training for a lot of people in dynamic sports like footy, MMA, all those sorts of things, to then carry over to sprint performance and jumping, throwing, all those sorts of things. So that's a super beneficial one. It's just if you give that to your athletes, they're probably going to hate you.
But they'll do very well.
Yeah, they'll hate you until they get better. Yeah. Then they'll love you. So that's our second method, guys. Third one we're moving into is going to be a submaximal volume focused method. So what does that look like, Nath?
Submaximal volume would be dictated by like the percentage of load that you're working at. So the idea in one of these blocks would not to be, you're not trying to prioritize intensity, you're trying to accrue volume at a lower intensity for different adaptations, but most of the time in this case it's probably hypertrophy and work capacity.
Yeah, hypertrophy, work capacity, and then like if you are getting into strength phases, it's then like refining your technique, right?
Yeah.
Getting more practice in the specific lifts.
It's like a general phase. Not meaning it's bad, but it's like, I feel like you get hypertrophy out of it, you get a good strength base, you get other adaptations like work capacity. To me it's like a foundational block.
Yeah, and I guess it can be used like in conjunction with some of the other stuff as well. Like, I know the Juggernaut method's a really, really popular training program, and I did that a while ago, and that uses like 2 weeks of submaximal effort stuff, followed by like a max effort at a percentage. So then they have that max effort work in there every 3rd week. So it's like majority of the training program is submaximal effort.
I don't mind revisiting that. That just reminded me last time I done it, I just went way too heavy on the submaximal way.
Yeah.
Being 20 years old or however old I was when I done it, I haven't changed that much.
As we do. But that's super effective for if you need to work on your technique, for sure. If you need to work on your technique, if you definitely, like, if you're one of those guys that can't do too much work, like you do one hard set and you feel beaten down, then this is the perfect block. I feel for a lot of those guys, and can be in conjunction with short rest periods. Like I remember one day we did 5x10 back squats on like a minute rest, and I think that was at 110 kilos or something like that. It was fairly heavy for us at the time. It'd probably still beat me up now if I tried it. But we were just sucking air the whole time. Like, it was bad.
It was.
But we got better.
We did.
That's all it comes down to. And yeah, I think it's super effective to put in conjunction with, I spoke a little earlier about like mixing that sub-maximal volume work with your max effort work is something that can help if you're like me and you tend to get beaten up by doing the hard max effort work. It helps sort of blend the two together so you can work in with getting the best out of the max effort work, but also keep yourself in the game for that little bit longer of a training cycle.
Yeah, I still think it's like one of the biggest foundational pieces. It's like where you should start, or if you're lost, it's probably where you should go back to.
It's essentially like accessory work as well. All accessory work is pretty much sub-maximal volume based.
Yeah.
You might have like leave a rep in the tank or go to failure on your last set, but most of it's going to be do work that you can repeat over time. So let's move on to CAT training. So CAT training's compensatory acceleration training, or pretty simplistically trying to move the bar as fast as possible. Speed work, some people will call it as. It got popularized by a guy named Fred Hatfield. He was Dr. Squat was his name, or what he was known as. The guy squatted like a ridiculous amount of weight back when there wasn't as many strong people going around. There was no Instagram. And this guy, like, he was an absolute beast. Like, he wasn't that big, but the dude could squat. And this was one of his main training methods as to developing the squat for him, was using loads a little bit lighter, like our sub-maximal effort work, but for short reps, so it might be sets of like 1 to 5, and trying to move the bar as hard as possible.
And that was for motor unit recruitment.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. Yeah. Motor unit recruitment, there is a little bit more of a volume focus there, because you're going to do more work. Very focused on, like, if people have heard of Prilepin's chart, which was a chart from like the 70s or 80s, so Russian guys put together all
it's like the chart.
Yeah, it's still the go-to for everything. But all the Russian sports scientists put all their programs together and then came out with the like reps per lift to produce power. So
it's like, think of it for people that is struggling to picture it. Think it's like how many reps you should do at a percentage and what the focus would be. Like what volume you're looking for at a certain percentage.
We might even link up the chart in the show notes below. So if you're interested in checking that one out, make sure you just jump in the show notes, and we'll be able to direct you guys to a copy of the chart. Really, really effective, and we use it quite a bit to figure out like how many reps we want to be aiming for like the lifts that we're shooting for when we're designing programs. So it's a really good way to come about that. CAT training's one of the things you don't want to do it if you haven't done a lot of that submaximal volume work first, where you've got a refined technique.
What did you say the guy's name was again that popularised it?
Fred Hatfield.
Okay. Did he use it in conjunction with other like periodization methods, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, like, so I think it wasn't like the whole thing of his training, but it was with...
But he just used like phase potentiation.
Different times in his training phases that he would go to this, and he tended to have a really good carryover from this moving into competitions.
Yeah, cool.
So it's really, really good for like athletes in particular as well, so you don't have to load them up with as much weight on the bar, but they get used to moving with speed. Particularly like anyone in team sports where they're going to be pushing against another load. Is really effective for it, and it sits in that back end of that triphasic training block, which we use quite a bit with our athletes, so it sits in really well there. Let's go on to the strength method, or one of our last ones that we like to go to, and this is more so of a like weekly structure, but our daily undulated periodization. So Nath, do you want to explain that one? There's a lot of big words there.
Daily undulating periodization is a method of setting out your training where the intensity and or volume undulates. Within one
change,
week. Means it changes. So say for instance, if I was doing like a volume block that Jake referred to earlier, and I had 5 sets of 8 at 70% each week, and I tried to do a 2% increase in load or something like that. So that's the structure. It's a very linear periodization, so it just slowly climbs through. With undulating periodization or changing periodization, I might have 3x5 at 80% on back squats on Monday, and I might have 5x3 at 85% on Wednesday, and I might have 3x1 at 90% on Friday. And that way you can handle a wide range of intensities. And there's been a lot of research backing it up, and I know people that have done it with great results.
It's pretty popular in like very dialed in lat sports, right? Like it's pretty much all of weightlifting runs in somewhat of a undulating periodization model. Like a lot of powerlifters are using it now.
Yeah, it's super common in like tested powerlifting.
Yeah,
I've noticed for some reason it's much more common in like the IPF people. I think because it's obviously harder to get stronger, so they probably seek more out. I guess the level dictates that, but yeah, it's really common in like dialed in sports, like you mentioned.
Yeah, where it's like you're going to be doing specifically these lifts, and you can practice those lifts, and ultimately I think it comes down to the more often that you can practice the lift, the more efficient that you're going to get at it.
It's interesting. Like as much science as there is behind training and stuff like that, I think there is still a bit of unknown. And like, there's still research and stuff waiting to be found, or waiting to be done, and then results waiting to be found. But it is interesting, like reading some of the adaptations people have, handling different loads and different intensities within the week. It is interesting.
Yeah,
it's cool, and it can be super effective for someone just starting out. I don't think I'd even worry about it too much. It's not that it would be bad, but it's probably not something you have to worry about. Like just a general volume phase would get you kicked off.
Probably a bit more exercise variation for somebody very fresh as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's like GPP work, right?
Yeah.
Like general physical preparedness.
Yeah. Like, I guess you'll see in weightlifting they use it with multiple exercises a little bit more.
Yeah.
In your powerlifting it tends to be like you're gonna
squat, bench,
and dead in percentages, and maybe you might pause it for a variation, or you might use like the front squat maybe once a week early in a training cycle, but then it gets to just being back squat. So yeah, it's super effective. I haven't actually done a great deal. Like I guess my max effort's built in with some sub-max effort on the back end of the week is somewhat of a, like it's an undulated method, but I haven't gone that high frequency.
I think I've done it since I was about 21. I wouldn't mind going back to it actually. This has been good.
You did the cube method.
I did.
That you basically blocked into that.
I did do that, and it did work. And it opened up a lot of time for surfing too.
That's some perks.
Yeah, exactly.
Do DUP and you can go surfing more often. I think that's that's nearly the main line for the episode. But there's 5 of our favourite methods to getting stronger, guys, and basically test them out.
Yeah.
Hit us with some questions. What would you like to see more of on these things? Like we do have a bunch of other ones. These were just the ones that come to mind that we know work
These are the
really
broadest,
well.
I feel.
Yeah.
They cover the most.
Yeah.
The most area. But there is definitely ones with a little bit more specificity in them for certain outcomes.
Definitely. So that'll do us. Catch you on episode 6.
See you guys.